attorney and also a legal analyst to talk about this. Just, I don't know what to say. So disturbing to see this video.
If there was not this video, would this have been
This would be the classic example of an officer saying, fearing for my life, I had no other choice but to fire. Let me be very clear to the viewers. It is against the law in this country to shoot an unarmed, fleeing suspect. The only justification would have been if this gentleman, this suspect, had a gun or he was making a threat towards others. This is an unlawful shooting, and I applaud the mayor and the police chief for firing this officer and charging him with murder, because this is an unlawful murder.
You know, this video not only shows that he was fleeing the officer and that he was shot, 8 rounds went off in that gun, it also shows the officer walking back over to him, which we can only presume he was trying to put the taser next to him.
He was compromising the crime scene, Lauren. He should not be near that crime scene. The videotapes demonstrate that he was trying to move evidence to cover up his conduct. And this is what is horrific about it. Not only you have the unlawful shooting, but he knew in advance what he had to do to try to conceal his wrongdoing. But for a bystander videotaping this, we would know this officer, and he would still be on the streets as we speak.
You know, obviously this is a charged event, racially charged. You are commending the mayor in this situation. He really came forward and took ownership of this situation.
Oh, let me tell you right now, the normal circumstances is the officer is suspended, he's on administrative paid leave, he's got a bankroll of attorneys around him, and somehow there's a defense by the police department. Here, the mayor and the police chief took courageous action to fire this officer on the spot and charge him. This is unique, and this is, in my opinion, I applaud the police chief and the mayor.
What some people might dispute is if this is a racist situation, whether this man's rights, civil rights, were violated. What do you have to say about that?
Well, let me sit here and say there's 2 issues. He was unlawfully killed. That's a violation of civil rights. The fact that it happens to be a black versus white, people will jump on that and say, you see, this is all that happens all the time. It's a black versus white. I don't look at it that way. This is a issue of color, and the color being blue. Unlawful officer using his power to take the life of a man who happens to be black. We should focus on the unlawful conduct of the police officer, not on the skin color of the victim.
Doesn't this bolster the argument for body cameras on police officers and for the public to have access to the tapes?
Oh, Lauren, you said it best. The most powerful weapon that officers feel now is that people have cameras. And if the police chief had a press conference today and said that they're going to start wearing body cameras starting immediately. The sad part about it, it's about 4 days too late because this man could have been saved if there's a body camera on this officer, because it acts as a deterrent.
And it also would only help police officers, prove their case in situations where it went the other way.
It works both ways. It cuts down the frivolous complaints, and it makes sure that the officer cannot fabricate evidence. Here, we saw the videotape after the shooting. He's trying to compromise the crime scene. I mean, this is a horrific crime.
So what's the argument against body cameras?
There isn't any.
Who's dragging their feet on it?
It's always politics. Unions, I would think that the police unions are always going to be reluctant. It's almost like a challenge to their credibility. But I think the public demands it. Ever since Ferguson, the public has demanded that we want more accountability, and the best way to see it is we want to know what's happening. We just don't want to rely on his word versus the victim's word.
Yeah.
We want to have proof, and the public has proof in this given situation.
More transparency.
Excellent transparency. It's a tragic situation, and I hope something good comes from this.
Well, there's many investigations underway. There's a state investigation. There's a couple of federal investigations. So more to the story to come.